Wondrous Ones, here again with another new moon update as we are having our new moon now in Virgo, just on the cusp of the autumn equinox, which is just about a week or so after. And of course, the autumn equinox is one of the points on the wheel of the year, this great ancient cultural technology of our genius ancestors to basically follow the solstices and equinoxes in these kind of sacred ritual festivities to give us a way to entrain, to connect with the rhythms of Mama Gaia. And there's mid-season festivals as well, like Samhain, which is Halloween, and Beltane on May Day to celebrate the fertility rites. And we'll get into that another time, but this is the first, or the last new moon rather, before that. And also we're going to be kicking off into eclipse season as well, which is always a incredibly intense time, a time of really grand resets and rebirthing. And yes, we also find ourselves with 6 planets in retrograde. So this has been quite a doozy of a year, especially a summer, with all these planets kind of moving a bit back with their influence. There is some beautiful shifts that are coming just on the horizon. Actually, a day after the new moon, Mercury will come out of retrograde. And of course, Virgo is governed by the planet Mercury as well. I know Mercury very well because I'm a Gemini star sign. And Mercury is, of course, the messenger of the gods. So definitely expect that as we pass through this new moon portal, there is going to be, with Mercury coming out of retrograde, there's going to be a lot of potential messages, divine messages that will come forth. So I highly, highly recommend for around the new moon and maybe the 3 days following as Mercury does its magic to really make sure you're in some beautiful prayer and meditation to just receive any insights, be in some deep contemplation, which is the merging of thought and meditation, and really be more receptive and more in your yin and your feminine in that sense, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of exciting messages that are going to be coming forth. So Virgo is a beautiful sign. Virgo is connoted to the Virgin. A lot of people connect Virgo to as well the divine feminine. But the word virgin actually means a woman, or for our sake, a being that is whole unto themselves, that is very healthily independent and sovereign. And these are some really potent themes that are coming very clear for us in this new moon. And like I like to say about working with astrology and the mythology and the archetypes that all the signs sort of bring forth, this is another kind of wheel where as the moon moves through these phases with the full and the new moon, it churns the archetypes of our consciousness. It gives us moments to remember the archetypes that are being activated during that time, seeing their reflection into ourselves. So this new moon Virgo gives us an excellent time to review our sense of sovereignty, checking in with ourselves. Are we enriching our lives in this beautiful way by living in a healthy, independent way? Are we self-governing our minds, which is very important in this era that we live in, where the matrix of mind control is being very much shaken and displaced. And of course, this is a reassertion of what is known as gnosis, this ancient idea that we have access to divine knowledge just by our very beingness through the spiritual practices that we have at our disposal. And this is incredibly important because we're all being galvanized into this sense of sovereignty, human beings coming back into a sense of their power with reverence and devotion to that power that is cultivated and actualized through our beautiful spiritual and psychological practices, our psycho-spiritual practices, which we must be dedicated to now more than ever, because things are incredibly bewildering in this world and it's going to be ramped up. And that's not to be doom and gloomy. In fact, I think there's great things on the horizon that are already taking place. But a lot of the sweetness is coming through the facing of these really intense and immense adversities. And along with being activated into our sovereignty, it's a good thing to just contemplate, what does sovereignty really mean to you? Something that means to me is coming into a clear sense of one's ethics, one's moral principles. And this is very, very important work as we start to extract ourselves from this social conditioning of a world system that I believe, and many I think, are awakening to the fact that it's very, very toxic. Now, if you saw my recent video on my YouTube channel, I did a spiritual kind of insight / review of the film Sound of Freedom, which is a very intense film to see. It's a beautiful film, one of the most powerful films I've seen in recent years, and it's depicting the harrowing issue of child and human trafficking, which is, you could say, the very opposite of sovereignty would be slavery. And this is actually happening in our world. There are more human slaves than there have ever existed, ever, even when slavery was legal in many places around the world. So this movie is really still captivating the masses. So in that sense, we are being asked to look at our principles and our ethics. How are we contributing to a world that is toxic, that is filled with such things? I know for me, I'm on a path of recovery from pornography addiction and misuse of my sexuality, which is something that I've been doing for years as I've been slowly extracting myself from the wounds that I was handed to with our cultural understandings about sex, which is very much about lust and just sheer ignorance. I mean, so many people are ignorant in how to use their sexual energy in a very potent way. And I think a lot of us, like with this movie Sound of Freedom, which is showing this kind of depraved sexuality that is toxifying the world with these, child and human sex trafficking rings. And as a lot of men, especially although women also suffer from pornography addiction, but primarily men do, as I'm witnessing this scourge is being faced, and more men are devoting themselves to practices like nofap, to going through a purification of their sexual energy. These kinds of moral and ethical decisions are key if we're going to erect appropriate boundaries to guard against those aspects of culture that would diminish our sovereignty, diminish the beauty of our Virgo archetype within us, this virgin, pure sense of ourselves that is strong and wise unto itself. Now, we've been conditioned in a world to always trust these kind of authority figures, whether they be governments or scientific experts. And I would also say that the pandemic has been this really incredible yet very intense initiation into realizing that a lot of these public figures, a lot of these medical scientists, I'll use Dr. Fauci, for example, or our own Prime Minister in Canada, Trudeau, a lot of these are falling from grace in front of our eyes. And while this is a very difficult thing for a lot of people who have put so much trust in the science, in the expertise that some of these figures seem to embody, there is a fraudulence that is being exposed in their authority that they've been towering over us with. And we need to face into that. It can be very uncomfortable because we start to realize, my goddess, I have not been whole unto myself. I've not been sovereign. I've been codependent in an unhealthy way with the media telling me what is good and right and decent. And when in fact, there's a lot of toxicity in those messages and in the figures behind those messages. So thus, anyone who's going to really empower their Virgo energy, their sovereignty, it also entails setting up very strong boundaries. For example, to jump back into pornography addiction, a lot of people, as they liberate themselves from these kinds of patterns, these addictive cycles, it means having boundaries around their tech usage, for example. Maybe unfollowing different accounts on things like Instagram, where there's lots of sexually explicit imagery. It takes being guarded, on guarding one's citadel, the temple of one's being. And in so doing, you are also affirming that what is precious in your heart, your soul, is something to cherish and revere. And it needs to be protected. It needs to be defended as we awake more and more to this harrowing darkness in our world. So another good reflection to do on this new moon is to maybe write down, what are your ethical and moral principles about the world? Is there places in your life where you need to have stronger boundaries? Are there any ways that you can empower your sovereignty, perhaps by doing some spiritual practices to really inspire control over your mind, for instance, mindfulness? Because that's one of the ways actually we bleed out a lot of our sovereignty and become victimized, because we let our thoughts and our mind kind of crush us in this slow, despairing song, which so many of us are enabled into in this culture, so that we will just give our power to someone else to fix our problems. Where can we be more self-assertive and self-actualized in problem solving our own dilemmas? So those are just some of the potent energies to look at in this really, really potent new moon. So with that being said, I'm going to just guide us into a little meditation. So if you want to further the potency of this Virgo energy, I encourage you now to just find a nice, comfortable seat. And let's make our spines nice and straight with an inhale, accentuating the straight spine. Exhale, just allowing that spine to be nice and comfortably straight, and then closing down the eyes. Harnessing a devoted connection to your holy breath, breathing in and out through the nose and bringing the breath down into the belly. And just take a moment to scan your body. Just allow yourself to find deeper relaxation and serenity. If there's any tension in your body, you can release it with a sigh. And I'd like you to take your awareness into your master of vibrations, which is your heart. Taking it into the center of your chest, where your energetic heart is located. Start to imagine that your heart is shining like this beautiful star of infinite loving light. And start to imagine, with the power of this new moon, this opportunity with every new moon to start a new cycle, to plant new seeds of intention. I'd like you to imagine yourself in your sovereignty. Imagine yourself more empowered, more resourceful unto yourself. And imagine just setting up a beautiful and graceful bubble of energy around your being right now. A protective, fatherly, kind of masculine energy to keep this precious light in your heart, your soul's radiance, protected and secure. And coming back into your heart center. And imagine some of the intentions that you wish to create, perhaps new rhythms, new patterns, new qualities, or qualities that you just want to further embolden in your life. And just start to imagine scenarios of those intentions coming to great fulfillment, great success, great truth. Imagine yourself standing strong and poised, every cell of your body shining with this sense of sovereignty. A sovereignty bestowed by the essential divinity of our nature, as divine humanity, part of this divine species of life. Imagine striding forth into your daily tasks, into your life, with this strength of sovereignty, this medicine of Virgo fulfilled, feeling yourself resilient, able to take care of yourself, solve your problems, and of course we can always call on support when needed. But in this phase of Virgo, let us really empower this self-sourcing ability. We can do it. Whatever the obstacles before us, having a trust in our sovereignty to be able to figure it out, to make the tweaks, to receive the necessary messages to make the advance needed in our life, to follow our purpose with more passion and focus. Breathing in that sovereignty into your heart, and releasing it on your side. Exhale. Coming back to your body, moving your fingers and your toes, and gently start to open your eyes, coming back to the space. Most excellent, everyone. Pleasure to be here with you. I hope the new moon bestows on you many blessings, many revelations. Make sure to sit as well with the Mercury retrograde that is coming to an end shortly thereafter, and open yourself to receive divine messages. You are all oracles. It is all of our divine nature and birthright to receive messages, to be Gnostics ourselves, to know as the gods and goddesses know, and to be transmitters of that divine information. So open yourself far and wide to receive in the next few days. Sending you lots of blessings. Be glorious. Love you all.